Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Hua Chongyang's eyes lit up. He bowed and said, "Now that you mentioned it, Mr. Seventh, I have some recollection of it as well. I did some digging around Jing Province City before this. Indeed, there's something like that coming up. However, I didn't think much of it before and didn't ask anyone else about it in detail." Zhenghai nodded and said, "My wise brother, you're telling me that we should snatch this person away and use him for our cause?" "That's right." Zhenghai's eyes brightened up. He stood up and patted Wuya's shoulder. With a forthright smile, he said, "Why didn't I think of that before, my wise brother?" Hua Chongyang had a respectful expression on his face. Well, it had been the same piece of information, but he had thought nothing of it. On the contrary, that information he had easily discarded became extremely useful in Wuya's hands. Wuya nearly spat out blood from the forceful pat on his shoulder. He said, "However, my cultivation base isn't profound. It's not practical for me to whisk this person away." Zhenghai said, "That can be easily arranged. You may use my 4 great protectors as you see fit. The others are in Liang province, but just give the word, my wise brother, and they'll come to you in haste." After he finished speaking, he felt his words were not sincere enough, so he thumped his chest and added, "I'll be at your service as well." Upon hearing this, Hua Chongyang hastily said, "Master Seventh, please leave this to me. I'm familiar with the layout of Jing Province City, and I know where the heaven worship platform is." How could he allow the great sect master of the Nether Sect to personally whisk someone away? Such an act was beneath his sect master. Zhenghai looked at Hua Chongyang disapprovingly. Wuya nodded and said, "In that case, I'll have to trouble you, brother Chongyang." "It's my duty," Hua Chongyang replied. Wuya said meaningfully, "Although the people from the powerful factions won't be on heaven worship platform, you should still keep a low profile just to be safe. You shouldn't expose your identity as well, otherwise, not even eldest senior brother can save you. Also, if you can go about it with your wits, don't resort to force. After all, the activity at the heaven worship platform deals with men." "Understood," Hua Chongyang said. "Go, then." Hua Chongyang retreated from the great hall reverently. After Hua Chongyang left, Zhenghai nodded in satisfaction. "I feel much more at ease when you're around, wise brother. I've been troubled these few days. I've racked my brain, but I can't seem to come up with a way to take down Jing Province City." Wuya smiled and said, "The 4 great protectors have profound cultivation bases. There's no shortage of able men in the Nether Sect as well. How is it that nobody can think of anything?" Zhenghai shook his head and said, "Now that the 9 provinces are in chaos, I have no problem focusing on taking one city at a time. However, keeping tabs on the overall situation is much more difficult. Bai Yuqing, Yang Yan, and Diqing are guarding Liang province, and they have to guard against sudden advances from the Rillians. The more concerns I have, the more muddled my brain becomes. The more muddled my brain is, the more difficult it is for me to calm down and think of a countermeasure." This was especially true now that a 9-leaf cultivator had appeared, and they had entered the lotus severing era. He was truly flustered. On the surface, although he had plunged the 9 provinces into chaos and many places are now under the Nether Sect's control, he could not consider himself as having succeeded so long as the divine capital's lifeline remained intact. Taking down the imperial city in the divine capital sounded far-fetched. "There's no need to worry, eldest senior brother," Wuya said in a soft voice, "I'll do everything I can." For some reason, Zhenghai felt there was something different about the current Wuya. He did not know what Wuya had experienced to become so determined. Wuya had become more grounded. However, he did not comment on the changes. He turned around with his hands on his back and looked at the map of Great Yan on the table. Business went on as usual in Cloud's Inn. Zhou parted the curtains and looked down at the streets. There did not seem to be any disturbances. Did I waste my appearance alteration card? A knock sounded on the door at this moment. Your meal, dear customer. The waiter entered and placed the dishes on the table. Zhou glanced at the dishes. In truth, nascent divinity tribulation realm cultivators often did not need to eat for as long as 10 days to a fortnight. However, since he was in Jing Province City, he could not afford to draw attention to himself. He asked, "Waiter, did anything happen in Jing Province City lately?" Dear customer, you've asked me this question many times. Jing Province City is as peaceful as can be. There's no place safer than here. You can feel at ease staying here, the waiter said confidently. Zhou had expected this response. At this moment, there was a commotion on the streets below. Some low-ranked cultivators gathered on the streets and marched north. There were also many who were dressed in outlandish and ostentatious clothes. Zhou pointed at them. Waiter, what's this about? The waiter tiptoed to the window and looked out before he shook his head and said, "A live sacrifice, that's what it is." It's boring. A live sacrifice? In the past, they sacrificed pigs, oxen, lambs, or other livestock. I heard they're going to sacrifice a living person this time. Who knows if it's true? As the waiter talked, he prepared the table. Enjoy your meal. Regardless of the era, there would always be things like this. Zhou shook his head. He did not want to stick his nose into where it did not belong. The streets were getting livelier by the minute. Just when he was about to close the windows, he saw a man speeding through the crowd. He was dressed plainly, but his appearance seemed familiar to Zhou. This person is... Zhou could not recall his name. What's his name again? He looks familiar. Curse my memory. The more he looked at the man, the more curious he became. He tapped his feet lightly on the ground before he leaped out into the alley next to the inn. He walked onto the street and followed the man. At the end of the street, the man suddenly stopped and turned around. Why are you following me, old mister? The man had intentionally walked on this stretch of road when he discovered he was being followed. My little friend, have we met? Zhou asked calmly. This was a genuine question. He still could recall where he had met this man. My name's Yuan'er. I think you've mistaken me for someone else, old mister. Stop tailing me. If the man did not mention this name, Zhou would not have instantly recalled who this man was. It was none other than Huachongyang, the leader of the Nether Sect's 4 great protectors and the first seat of the Azure Dragon Hall. Why would the great leader of the 4 great protectors, a 7-leaf golden lotus elite, enter Jing Province City on his own? When Huachongyang turned around and left, a frown could be seen on his face. He quickly searched his memories and confirmed he had not met the old man before. It would be bad if his identity was exposed and foiled Mr. Seven's plan. Zhou glanced at the remaining time of the appearance alteration card. He still had about 2 days left. He continued following Huachongyang. So long as he followed Huachongyang, he would certainly be able to meet the rascal, Zhenghai. Zhou hid his aura and was now no different from an ordinary pedestrian. He was quite pleased with the appearance alteration card. If Huachongyang knew who he was, he would have been scared out of his wits and ran away. Huachongyang navigated through 4 streets and emerged from the main city. He proceeded northward from Jing Province City. Halfway through the journey, he suddenly swerved to the side and launched an attack behind him at lightning speed. Forgive me, old man. When he was 10 meters away from Zhou, Huachongyang noticed that Zhou appeared unflustered. He felt an unexplainable pressure weighed down on his chest. Just when Huachongyang's energy fist was about to reach Zhou's face, Zhou raised a hand. His fingers seemed to be electrified. The bolts of electricity could be vaguely seen. He pushed his arm forward. Bam! The instant the 2 palms collided, a vertical blast of energy rippled out. Huachongyang instantly reeled from the formidable power. He flipped as he flew backward. After flipping thrice, he landed and staggered 3 steps back. His eyes were brimming with shock. Penglai energy palm? 6 leaf? 7 leaf? 8 leaf? He was not sure. This was because he merely used 30% of his power. However, since the old man faced him in such a calm manner, he was certain the old man had to be at the 6 leaf stage at least. Hua Chongyang no longer underestimated his opponent. He cupped his fists and said, "Old mister. I have no quarrel with you. Why are you following me?" Hua Chongyang had been mulling over this the entire time when he was traveling earlier. He did not have any friends with such a huge age gap between them. Moreover, he had disguised himself for this mission. He spent most of his time in the Nether Sect where he held a high rank. When they went about their various missions, he rarely had the chance to personally take action. Therefore, he was certain he had not met this old man before. Throughout his time with the Nether Sect, he had taken out quite a number of elites at the 6 leaf stage and above. He was worried that perhaps, the old man had recognized him and had come to seek revenge from him. Zhou did not answer Hua Chongyang immediately. Instead, he gauged his extraordinary power. The palm strike he launched was not powerful. It roughly contained 1/10 of his extraordinary power. Finally, he said half seriously as he threw out a random story, "My surname's Liu. I'm from Penglai. You resemble a friend of mine, young friend. It seems like I was mistaken." So what if he was mistaken? The person he wanted to find was Zhenghai. Zhou's answer caused an expression of delight on Hua Chongyang's face. "Oh, a senior from Penglai. Forgive my rudeness. You know about Penglai?" "I don't only know about it." Hua Chongyang stopped talking abruptly, swallowing the rest of his words. He had almost ruined his mission. Zhou, on the other hand, was intrigued. If he had known, he would not have said that he was from the Penglai sect, nor would he choose to mimic a Penglai sect technique when he attacked. Hua Chongyang changed the topic. "What brings you here to Jing province, old mister?" "I'm looking for someone," Zhou answered honestly. "What brings you here to Jing province, young friend?" A question for a question. There were no losses. "I'm looking for someone," Hua Chongyang replied. Their conversation was tense and stilted, fraught with distrust. This was common in the cultivation world. Zhou was not surprised by Hua Chongyang's response. At this moment, several cultivators flew on their swords in the air. They were heading north. All of them wore white robes and were moving swiftly. Hua Chongyang looked up at them with a slight frown and said, "The Henku branch?" He cupped his fists at Zhou at once. "Old mister, I'd best get going. Until we meet again." He leaped into the air and tailed the Henku branch cultivators. Zhou was puzzled. The Henku branch was one of the major branches from the Confucian societies. They had always kept a low profile over the past years. Why were they out and about now? Were these branches starting to make their moves after the fall of the 10 great sects? Perhaps, they were thinking of ways to improve their sect's strength after the dawn of the Lotus Severing era? Zhou did not dwell on this any longer. He stepped into the air and followed them, flying at full speed. As Hua Chongyang flew, he looked behind him. As he had expected, he saw Zhou following him. He looked at the others from the Henku branch in front of him. Then, something stirred in him. The older, the wiser. It was too easy for something unexpected to happen if he was too close to his target. Hence, he slowed down. "Senior Liu, are you going to the Heaven Worship platform to see what the fuss is all about as well?" Heaven Worship platform? Then, Zhou remembered what the clouds in Waiter told him and said, "Yes." Hua Chongyang felt uneasy when he heard this. Things were much more complicated than he had imagined them to be. He had assumed this was an ordinary live sacrifice and that a 7-leaf elite such as himself could easily accomplish his mission alone. Now that he discovered the elites from the Henku branch elites and the Penglai sect senior, he realized this was not a simple matter. Hua Chongyang had a better impression of the Penglai sect. The Confucian societies had governed the world for a long time. When the Nether Sect began to walk on the road to world dominion, it was only natural for them to offend many Confucian cultivators who were also officials in the divine capital. In the end, Hua Chongyang slowed down even more. He blocked the wind with his energy as he asked, "Do you know about the person being sacrificed this time, Senior Lu?" "Not really." Lu Zhou was relieved Hua Chongyang had slowed down. How could he continue to tail Hua Chongyang otherwise? His target was moving at the speed of a 7-leaf nascent divinity realm elite while he was only at the 1-leaf stage. He could use Wizard to catch up, but that would just be exposing his identity. Hua Chongyang thought about it for a moment before he said, "I heard the woman is of unknown origins, and she's an evil person. Some say she's from Lulan, and some say that she's from the Endless Ocean. The point is, she's unusual. After she showed up, the beasts attacked the humans, and the birds ran amok. In the cultivation world, these are unlucky signs. She's going to be used as a sacrifice." After he finished speaking, he furtively studied Lu Zhou's face. He wanted to make sure Lu Zhou was not after the same person. Naturally, Lu Zhou was not interested in these matters. His target was Zhenghai, and Zhenghai alone. "And you believe that?" "Of course not." Hua Chongyang shook his head. "Are you going to rescue her?" Lu Zhou asked. Hua Chongyang was stunned. This old man was something else. Before he could glean any information from the old man, he discovered he had been checkmated. "Just like you, I'm just going to see what the fuss is about, Senior Lu. However, this woman's special. It's a shame for a living person to be offered up as a sacrifice. The hearts of men are difficult to fathom. We would be considered fortunate to be able to make it through this world smoothly. Who has the time to feel sorry for others?" Lu Zhou said. "You have a point. I'm enlightened." Hua Chongyang looked ahead. The Hankou branch cultivators were no longer in sight. He said, "Senior Lu, shall we pick up the pace?" "There's no need," Lu Zhou said calmly. Hua Chongyang gave it some thought and found it reasonable. He nodded at once and said, "You're wise, Senior Lu. The heaven worship platform won't go anywhere. There's no need to follow the people from the Hankou branch." The two of them continued flying. They were neither fast nor slow. They flew past a patch of forest and river outside the city. Then, they saw a simple yet formal heaven worship platform in plain colors. It was like a dark ink painting. The heaven worship platform was not huge. It occupied about 100 meters of the land. It was completely paved with limestone. There were steps at its 4 corners. In the center of the heaven worship platform, a raised dais seemed to have been temporarily erected. There was a wooden cross on it, and firewood was piled at its feet. They're really using a living person as a sacrifice? "Senior Lu, there are many people here," Hua Chongyang said. The two of them landed slowly. They stepped into the bounds of the heaven worship platform. Many low-ranked cultivators were swarming in and surrounding the heaven worship platform. "Kill the demon woman! Kill the demon woman! Kill the demon woman!" Lu Zhou and Hua Chongyang heard the cries from the crowd and turned to look. The Hankou branch cultivators in white robes were gathered together. They did not join in the shouting. There was another group of cultivators in Taoist robes to their left. Both groups were looking at each other. Hua Chongyang frowned. As he expected, things were truly complicated. "Young friend, why are you frowning?" Lu Zhou asked. "There are too many people here. It's noisy," Hua Chongyang replied. "Why don't we leave now? You're like a long-lost friend to me. Would you care to join me for a cup of tea?" Lu Zhou tried his best to make himself seem peaceful and approachable. "I can't appear imposing now." However, Hua Chongyang shook his head and said, "Let's take a look now that we're here." He promised his sect master and Mr. Seventh that he would complete the mission. How could he give up halfway? Although the situation was complicated, it was still controllable. Hua Chongyang looked up at the wooden platform and asked, "Senior Lu, you're not here for the woman?" His eyes were brimming with doubt and disbelief when he asked the question. Lu Zhou knew that Hua Chongyang would not believe him no matter what his answer was. Hence, he said, why are you asking me if you've already made up your mind about me?